Hey people, Dexter Morgan here. If you were wondering where your favorite YouTuber is, I'm right here. I apologize for taking so long to upload another game review. I've only just been released from prison for apparently illegal and hazardous distribution of illicit substances. Needless to say, it didn't end well. With that out the way, I welcome you to my Protogen peak, the next best thing right after the separation of Czechoslovakia. Just like my hopes and dreams, this game is entirely fictional. This game includes some very hard to understand controls and mechanics like reading and pressing M1 every now and then. You play as Marvin, a Protogen mercenary instead of Sambubu this time, which brought great sadness to my heart. The game starts with him floating in darkness as if he were without a body, which may or may not be foreshadowing. During what seemed like a coma, he hears familiar voices, those of Xena and Juno, which if you remember, are from my Furry Protogen 2 video, which now makes me physically cringe watching it. After some very interesting and important monologue Marvin had during his coma, we found out Marvin and Xena knew each other, maybe more than just friends. We also find out he was created next to Juno and Xena by the OG Sigma Protogens, after which they all went their separate ways. Juno and Xena tried to live in harmony with Protogens, while Marvin and the rest joined an intergalactic company as mercenaries. Juno's idea of living in harmony with Protogens didn't really work out, so her and Xena decided to travel space, which would lead back to My Furry Protogen. Xena stays on a garbage-filled planet, and Marvin would come visit her now and then to relax between missions. After a regular visit, they get into a bad argument, which would lead Marvin to ghost her for 5 years. When you finally wake up, you get greeted by Xena. You can barely feel your body and feel something bad has happened. Xena helps you up and brings you to a mirror, only to find out you're now a Protogen Terminator. Xena tells you after your last mission, your ship blew up and left you half dead. One of your teammates named Vardy carefully extracted your brain and brought it to Xena in case she could bring you back. What's worse is that after a failed mission, your employer started hunting all your teammates to punish them, which makes me think Marvin may have worked for Amazon. After learning this information, Marvin, as the kids like to say, crashes out, which leads Xena to remotely turn him off like a TV, only to give him a tour of her base right after. After Marvin calms down, Xena tries her best to get him used to his new body, only to find out he's a cold-hearted Sigma male who just wants to game man himself, so he instead decides to just vegetate in his room for several days. After realizing he can't rust in his bed all day, he leaves his room and looks for Xena, who gives him some work around her base. More days go by with Marvin slowly adapting to his body and Xena quietly supporting him, but of course Marvin being a moderator of r/I'm 14 and this is deep, he still doesn't exactly enjoy the situation he's in. As more time goes by, they start getting used to each other. While Xena is working, Marvin throws metal scrap away with Xena's homemade mini-bots made purely of uranium-235. This routine would continue until one day when Xena brings Marvin to a neighboring planet for shopping. I'm not joking when I say nothing really significant happens during this part, other than Xena bringing Marvin to another planet with actual nature, where they look up at the stars, and that's it. Oh, and did I mention Xena made a prosthetic metal manlyhood for Marvin? What did you expect from this kind of game? The game continues with Marv's depression arcs, and Xena's undying trust in him, topped with some spicy scenes which this time I thankfully didn't have downloaded. Trust me. Slowly but surely, Marv starts questioning whether Xena is just a person he can relax with or someone he actually loves, which would bring them to Xena leading him down to a beautiful looking underwater cave. This is where Marv would confess his love to Xena, after which she admits the same, which leads to yet another super obvious thing, after which they magically teleport in Xena's bed. Marv sees her curled up next to him, worried about something. She would confess to Marvin, telling him that there is a possibility to bring back his original body, with the flaw of being extremely dangerous with a chance of killing him. This once again enraged him and made him crash out for real on God, and say some very bad things. He would storm out and spend the whole night traversing Xena's planet. The next day he would return to Xena, who was beyond pissed. But Marv, being the super gentle Terminator he is, he manages to settle things down between them. By now, you must be saying something along the lines of, "David, I'm 99% sure you're a furry," or, "David, please stop manufacturing highly hazardous nuclear weapons. They're giving me cancer." Which would be a valid point, especially if you look at my videos, but my counterpoint is better. Here's a picture of my dad. He's still alive and well. If he wasn't, I wouldn't be defending myself. But back to the topic. Xena requires to obtain a rare sphere and some auxiliary parts to create the machine which would bring Marv's body back, which requires them to travel to another universe onto a pirate-controlled planet. There they look for Anve, a person of interest who obtained such sphere a few weeks ago. After meeting a person who definitely is an Anve, they help him find Anve in a pirate compound, which would turn out to be a way for him to steal a jet and escape the planet, and leaving Marv and Cena to fight off the pirates. Instead, they run it back to their jet and chase after Anve. When they catch him, he voluntarily gives the sphere to Cena and you two leave. After a few more weeks of finding parts for the machine, they finalize it. The first time in this game, I started to feel uneasy, seeing the countdown go down to what would seem like obvious death, which they both knew could happen. But they got along with it and just trusted each other. They spent their whole day acting like nothing was to happen, knowing deep down Marv might die in this machine. They walk around, they hold hands, they visit the underwater cave, and eventually watch the sunset until the countdown hits 0 and Marv is ready for the inevitable. He lays in the machine and tells Cena how much he loves her, how she shouldn't blame herself if he leaves, and to find happiness. The door closes, Marv starts losing consciousness, and before he blacks out, he says his final words. Yeah, I cried, so what? Jokes aside, first time ever, you might say, I cried to what would seem like a regular adult game to someone else, but to me, it was a fucking masterpiece. I'm not going to sit here and talk about how this game changed my life, when I barely remembered half the things I wrote down for the script, but I will say that for a simple $5, you can get a feeling movies can't recreate anymore. In conclusion, even though I was late to buy the game because the money I could have spent on this game when it first released, I instead spent on CS2 cases, and no, it wasn't worth it. This game will stick with me for a while, until I do my annual Tailbound playthrough. My final rating is a simple 11 Juno and Cena shirts out of 10 gunshot wounds. In other words, thank you for making this game. And I also thank you, viewer, for sticking all the way to the end. I feel embarrassed talking about such things, but at the end of the day, it's something others see as entertainment, and I'm glad to be the one who brings it to you on a delayed notice. Have a great day, and we'll see each other next time.